Today we're talking about contracts. All right, cheers. Welcome back to Photography After Hours. We are here at Parkwood Studios and we want to introduce Scott Squared here. So we have Scott and Scott,
Hi
Scott
there.
Hartwick and Scott Farence. And they're our guests tonight. And we're going to be talking about contracts. But before we get into that, we wanted to tell you about our sponsor, PAC, the Photographers Adventure Club. We are sponsored by them, and they do all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out at photoadvclub.com. And we're here at Parkwood Studios recording this, and it's like 100 degrees outside, so we're enjoying the cool air in here and air conditioning. So we were chatting a little bit the other night about what to talk about, and we came up with the idea of contracts. And tell them a little bit about you. You work with ASMP and what that is.
I am actually the president of ASMP's local chapter, AZ Phoenix, and contracts was a topic that is continually brought up to me. People, ask me about, I'm having a problem with the client and this and that. And I said, well, what's your contract look like? What did you talk about? And
When
they're
did you
like,
get?
well, I didn't have a contract. It's all verbal. We
Yeah.
didn't do anything. Now, most contracts today are done, and they're usually like in a PDF form, and so they're done online. But it is a contract, and emails can hold up in court if that is an issue and you need to go there. But a contract is not only for you as a photographer. We're talking about contracts between photographers and clients.
Sure.
It's also for your client. Your client knows exactly in the contract what you're doing and who you're doing what with and how many images or whatever specifically you're doing for that.
Sure, yeah. So, a lot of times you'll ask someone and you'll say, hey, they have a problem. You ask them, so what does your contract say? And they have no idea. They're
Yeah.
just like, what contract? Or I don't have one. And it gets ugly there
Yes.
sometimes. So we even like we'll do model shoots here, and I even do a contract with the model so that
Exactly.
I know they're going to show up, what time they're going to show up, and everything like that.
Sure.
And I want to make sure everything is written at all times.
Yeah.
Whether it's a contract or it's a PayPal invoice or whatever it is, that there should be some kind of written agreement
A
between
paper
the
trail.
parties, a paper
Exactly.
trail that you can
Yes.
say, hey, you were supposed to show up here tonight and do after hours, and you didn't.
Sure. And
So
if there's a disagreement, like your model, you said, hey, it's a trade out. You come for us, we'll give you so many prints or whatever. You can use it for your portfolio, and we can use it for ours. And in exchange for you modeling,
sure.
that's your contract. Usually, is that how
Or
you do it?
even releases. So I
Exactly.
think you were talking to me yesterday about a model release, right? And a release is a form of a contract too. So when you go and do a trade for a shoot, that gets so many people in trouble. So you go and do a shoot here, and then the model's like, "Well, you took 600 pictures. I want them all. Go edit them, and I want them like highly edited." And it's like, "No, I don't have time to edit 600 images for
Yep.
you." So doing a release, doing a model contract, having those written terms down is going to keep you out of trouble and keep you out of all that mess of everything. So
Usually, the contract starts with your whoever you're talking to, whether it's a model, whether it's your client. You'll start off, and it's in your estimate. That is where your contract comes. So that's why you ask questions to your client
sure,
or your model.
yeah,
So, what's your project? What are your needs? How do you want to use it? What do you want from us as a photographer?
usage too, yeah.
Usage,
So usage is
all
a
those
big
things.
uh, a big problem. Are you going to use it commercially?
Yeah,
Are you going to use it? Especially with both parties need to know usage
sure,
because the models are going to want to get paid if it's now going on a billboard or something.
exactly.
So
Now, even if you do a trade out,
magazine, billboard, all that stuff, they're going to be like,
exactly,
"Hey, you're getting paid. I want to get paid."
sure. And if you do a trade out with a model, but the image happens to be pretty good, you can put it in there within your contract and say, if I do want to use this, I will give you a percentage of that as income.
Yeah,
Because some people shoot stock photography, not as much as they used to in the past, but they do. And maybe you have a great image that some client wants to use, and you have it written in your contract, and whatever that amount is or percentage, or if it's a flat fee, um, you pay that to the model as you get paid. The
yeah,
model gets paid.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody's happy.
So, other Scott, you've been having some models and people come in here, or even if you shoot for a friend or something,
Sure.
have you done anything written, or has it all been word of mouth so far?
So far, mostly word of mouth, but with contracts, and you talked about email contracts,
Yes.
you have this communication back and forth. And the way I understand contracts working is that last one in the thread, that is the contract. And with my other job, we do the same thing. We get a request, we give a quote, they send us terms, we modify the terms, and then we get to an agreement. You toss it back and forth until everyone's in agreement, and that final one, anything that happened above that is no longer valid. It's that final one
Yep.
that's the one
That's
the
the contract. The first one is a negotiation.
It's all negotiation until you get that last one, and if
Exactly.
you don't throw that last one in, and you really want something else, you're out of luck.
Yeah. And I mean, we were discussing, I'm not going to name names, but there was a particular photographer in town, and he actually did have a signed contract with a particular magazine, and he never had a copy of it. He had seen it and he remembers, but it was several years ago, and he didn't remember what that contract was.
What terms?
And everything was great for, whatever it was, 4, 5, 7 years, and then they ran into a problem. What was discussed wasn't what was photographed. He tried to build some more, and they didn't want to pay it. Back and forth.
It's ugly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
fast.
it was ugly fast, and he didn't have a copy of that. And then it was, we own all those images. It was a work for hire contract, which means whatever you shoot for that client is all his. He didn't understand. He disagreed
he
with
was an
that.
employee then,
Yes.
basically.
And he didn't agree with that, but he didn't have the contract in front of him, or couldn't find any emails.
So work for hire is like, say you work for Burger King, and your job for Burger King is to photograph burgers for their menus and everything else. You're
Yeah.
getting paid a low hourly wage. They supply you the equipment. Usually, you shoot as much as they want you to from 9 to 5, and then you leave. Whereas
Right.
working like what we do here, you're going to bring a client in, you provide the
Yes.
studio, you have your own equipment, your own
Exactly.
insurance. So he got roped into being an employee for them.
Well, he thinks he did, but he might not be.
Yeah.
And it could be, his word against this other person's word.
Yeah.
But you really don't want to get into that legal stuff, because then it costs
You're
a lot of
gonna
money.
lose
Yeah,
the client
it's like
too. You're gonna in the long
Nobody
run-
wins.
Nobody
Nobody
wins.
If it's not absolute on both parties, nobody wins.
You're still going to lose. Even if you win, you're going to lose. So you may win the
Yes.
battle, but you're going to lose the
The
war and the
lawyer's
client.
And I
You
mean,
know what's-
and even if you're dealing with a model and you're doing a trade out, once you've come to that agreement, you send over a little file, and it just basically explains everything. You've got some terms and conditions. If you do sell it, which I recommend that you might want to, if you want to do that, put it in the contract and offer them something.
I think it's
you
almost
know.
more important to have a contract when it's trade for, because
Yes.
that gets uglier quicker, and there's
yeah.
all these assumptions. Like there's all these assumptions like, hey, yeah, you shot my family and I want all of this, or you shot, whatever it is, and it's like, well, I shot for free, but I'm not going to give you the prints for
Yes.
free, or whatever it is, so it gets for family, friends,
Sure.
models, all those trade for kind of things, it goes downhill pretty quick.
And there was a model, and I don't remember who this happened, and she was a professional model, high-end model, and she had a contract with the client, with the photographer as it was, and the particular job that they shot for didn't fit her style,
Oh.
And it talked about something that she didn't like, and so she actually filed a claim against them and wanted an ad pulled, and she won. And even though they did have a contract and it was agreed upon and everything was cool, the courts ruled in her favor.
Yeah.
And she won a $2.5 million settlement, I believe it was. It didn't portray her in the manner that she
The
felt
best light.
was, appropriate for her in her career.
So, what are some quick tips or ideas you guys have for someone out there that wants to do a contract, and so they haven't done one? You haven't done one.
Well, I have a contract. I do photography for residential magazines
Okay.
for different communities, and so I have a contract with the publisher.
Okay.
And so each one of the magazines that wants to use my images were under that same contract. So that's the contract that I do have.
Okay. Good.
And I have a copy.
Oh, good. And you have a
Oh.
copy, so you can.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very smart.
The only thing that gets a little funny, and I'm kind of out of that, is I shoot events, and so I shoot everyone at the event, and then I upload the images. I don't choose what goes in the magazine. So if there is an image and someone doesn't look the way they thought they should, they need to get hold of somebody else, not me.
Usually you're okay if it's editorial wise,
Right.
but as
There are some
yeah.
women, they go, oh, look at what my eyes were doing. Well,
yeah, you know,
it's an event, you know.
somebody's
you're
looking
handing
at
shots.
something they shouldn't be, or something showing that shouldn't be,
Yeah.
or, you know, somebody's together that shouldn't be together, or
Well, my
whatever.
contract is I'm out of that. I do the job. I upload things. They choose what goes
You
in the
turn it
magazine.
over, yeah. You turn over, yeah, your images. It's like working for someone else. If
Yeah.
I shot events for someone else, not my own company, here's the card. I don't want to hear about it.
But at that point, you know, that's in lawyers' hands, and we're not lawyers.
No.
You know, we don't claim to be lawyers. You know, it's just you want to cover yourself as best you can, and there's boilerplate contracts that you can get. ASMP, you know, asmp.org. You go on there, you can download them. You can Google, you know, contracts, you know, estimate forms and things like that.
So let me ask you, the
Sure.
PDFs that you download, are they the type of PDFs that you can actually fill in certain lines, or do you have to print
Yes,
them out?
it's
and write
it's
on?
boilerplate, but you can. It's a PDF. It's a boilerplate where it's
So
a
it's more like a
generalized.
form.
Yeah, it's a form,
Okay.
and you go through and you put your name in it
Yeah.
and your contract.
Nice.
Any contract that you have, even though there's terms and agreements, we'll say you send I send you a contract, and you look at it and you go, well, I don't like this term here,
Sure.
and I don't like this term here, and I don't like. So you can take that
You have to
contract,
modify it.
you can line that particular thing out and put in what you want, initial it. You send it back to me, and then we'll go back and forth. Well,
Okay.
you want to be able to do that with the image, or you don't want to be, indemnify me. You want to have me take care of the insurance on this, or whatever the terms
changes,
are.
Yeah.
You are, that's what the agreement is, until you come to the point where you both agree on it, and you say yes, and I say yes, and then we're good. At that point, it is legal. Um, Usually the boilerplates, lawyers looked at it, and
Yeah,
The
when I
language
had
is the
the
language,
language
good.
is there, and
that's
each
what they're
state
there
can be
for.
a little, but that is
Yeah.
what it's there for. It's to cover you and your client
Everybody. Yeah.
and everybody and anybody else in there. A lot of times when you do events, though, depending on what kind of an event is, if you ever got a ticket to a sporting event, if you look on there, there's little lines in there that, and if you may be photographed or video, and
Yeah.
we have the right
it's got
to use
everything
it.
in there,
It's got
yeah.
everything
You,
on
know,
there.
You can
that,
get killed
that
by a
actually,
bat.
even though you bought that ticket, it's a contract.
Yep.
It's like, I am going to this event, and yes, I agree to the terms, and the terms of that contract are they can photograph me and they can put it on TV
They
or
can
whatever.
photograph you. You can get hit by parts of a bat, a ball.
Absolutely.
We have no responsibility for
Yes.
anything. Yeah, you're
So-
basically
You're
Yep.
on your own. You paid your money, take your chances. Yeah.
And that's, every time you pay that credit card bill for that, those tickets, whatever, that is your agreement to that
That
contract.
is the agreement. That's right.
And these guys go to that event. If they're employees of that event, there might be a contract with them.
Oh yeah.
There's restaurants that I've gone to, and they actually sign model releases. That's part of their contract. I was like, wow, because I had to get. It was in a public venue, but anybody who was not part of the company, I had to get model releases for under the terms of the contract, but not the employees because they've all signed it. And so we're golden.
So a couple of things. What we wrap up here that we want to hit is usage. So they want to get what the usage is going to be. Is it going to be commercial? Is it going to be just trade for? Is it for fun portfolio? So you want to know. They want to know, and you want to know what the image is going to be used for, so you know how to charge in the estimate part. You want to know what else? The terms.
How long
of
do you want to
many-
use it?
How long? Terms. How long?
And where?
One of the big things, especially when you're dealing with most clients, including models, is because you talked about this. Well, how many images?
How many images? That's
And-
what I was
and-
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you
How many images,
in
how many
exchange,
edited
you're going to get
ones?
6 edited images that are retouched fully, and that's it.
That's
Or,
it. Yeah.
Or 3 or 2 or 1 or whatever
Whatever the number.
whatever
yeah.
it is.
That's
you
super
need to
important.
nail that down so they know, and everybody's happy with it.
And when a lot of
Yeah.
times, like, hey, it's going to take me a month, or can be up to a month,
Exactly.
because if a paid job comes in, you can't suddenly turn the paid job off to go take care of some trade force stuff. So
Yeah.
you should give yourself more time
Yes.
to really get the images. Than you always
Yes.
want to, what's the term? Under promise, over deliver. Right.
Always.
Always, because you don't want to come in
yes.
and be like, hey, I'll give it to you tomorrow, and then give it to them a month from now. You're better to say, I'll give it to you a month,
Exactly.
and then give them to them
In
tomorrow.
3 weeks, and then you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of being a professional.
It is.
Just because you might not do photography full time, you can still be a professional.
Absolutely.
A professional, in my opinion, is someone who gets paid to do whatever they get paid for.
Mhm.
That does make you professional. Now, if you're getting paid to do something, but it's not paying for the actual cost of that, you're actually borderline being maybe considered an amateur because you're not charging enough to cover your,
All
you
your
know,
expenses.
yeah. And the more people get into photography and they're doing it, the more and more they realize this is expensive and there's a
It's
lot of cost involved.
Still, you don't want to get in trouble and
Yes.
stuff. So definitely.
Exactly.
So we gotta wrap it up. So definitely do contract. Hit a couple of those points that we talked about.
Do your
Look in-
estimates.
Yeah.
Do estimate. Look into asmp.org for different free. Are they free forms
They're
that
free.
they have there?
Yeah.
Totally free forms. So there's a great resource for you to jump on there. And something is better than nothing. I think we
Yes.
can wrap up with that.
Absolutely.
As long as you have it in writing, like you said, whether it's an email, but as long
Yeah.
as you have something to go back to. Hey, we said we're going to be here at 7 o'clock. You're going to get 6 images. They're going to be edited and they're going to be delivered in 30 days or less.
Yep.
And even if it's just that, that's ahead of what 90% of people are doing out there.
Including magazines.
Including
Yeah.
magazines, yeah.
Including magazines.
So cool. So I think that's all we can cover for this topic. We may revisit at another point because there's a lot more in this realm, and we're not lawyers, so default to lawyers and other official resources. There's just
Sure.
ideas to be able to get you thinking about it and changing your mind. And check out other episodes there, and we'll see you real soon.